What's up everyone, welcome to my channel. This is Jeffrey Jim from Carismatic Visuals. Today we are going to review the Hollyland Mars 300. It's the HDMI transmitter. It goes for under $500, which is something unique, something that hasn't been done in the market before. This is good for video production, small video productions with a small budget, or when you run and gun shooting and you need a more flexibility on top of your camera. Most of the time when you run and gun on a gimbal, you don't want cables hanging around to another fixed point on your camera, so this is a good option to get rid of that. The transmitters are rated for 300 feet, which is about 100 meters. So right now we are walking away from my girlfriend, who is filming right over there, and we're going to test out how far this transmitter can reach. 50 meters away, as you can see. Right now I'm filming with the A6500 and my girlfriend is holding the gimbal with the A7III on top. It's quite a walk. As you can see, it still works. So that 100 meters should be no problem at all. The latency is, for me, is, I don't do focus pulling and that kind of stuff, so the latency for me is okay. When you do fast action shooting, it still keeps up pretty well. However, you have to keep in mind that when you pull focus, there's a little bit of latency in it, but it's nothing too bad. So it's still usable for video productions, smaller video productions, where a producer wants to look on a monitor and tell you what to do. There's a transmitter and a receiver. Both have two ports. So the transmitter has an HDMI in and a loop out. So the HDMI in goes from your camera into the receiver, and you also have a loop out. So if you have another producer looking at your video work, you can use the loop out to attach an external monitor onto your camera to check out your own footage without losing footage, because Sony has a blackout screen when you use HDMI out. The receiver has two HDMI out ports, so you can not only use one monitor but also two monitors, one for the producer, one for your client, for example. So Hollyland Tech provides us with one cold shoe mount, which is on my transmitter right now. I use the transmitter most of the time on top of my camera, so this is why I have it mounted on my transmitter. The receiver can also be mounted with a cold shoe mount. However, Hollyland Tech only provided you with one, so you have to be a little bit creative with how to mount this one on top of your gimbal or onto your monitor. Most of the time I use it with a GoPro attachment, which then goes onto a hot shoe mount on my gimbal. That way it works for me. A shorter HDMI cable is coming, so that will also help with the flexibility on my setup. Right now it's a little bit unhandy with a, what do I have, 2 meters cable or something, or 1.5 meters, which can get a little bit in the way. So most of the time I use these transmitters for run and gun shooting. I don't want to get tangled up into several cables or have a fixed point on my gimbal, which is the limiting factor. So on the bottom of the receiver I mounted a GoPro 90-degree angle mount, let's say. The bigger battery is my preference for the fixed transmitter, or receiver in this case. This one slides right into the gimbal handle like this, and with this mount you can adjust the angle a bit. Right now it's perfect, so the only thing that you need to do is mount this one on the camera then, like this, and the cable which goes to your camera. This one is from my external monitor. So instead of going directly into the monitor, it goes into the transmitter like this. You can now mount it on top of the gimbal, which I need the quick release plate for, and it's gone. So to get the camera on top of my gimbal, I used a Manfrotto quick release plate and adjust it straight up. As you can see, it's pretty balanced already. The final step in this process is putting the HDMI cable into the receiver and plug it into my monitor, HDMI in. So once they are both paired up, they came out paired up out of the box. You can see the signal on my monitor right here. This is also my monitor which I use for running and shooting. And as you move around, there's a slight delay, but nothing bad, nothing too bad. There's another reason why I think this is a great product for YouTubers or other vloggers that shoot videos at home. This setup allows me to shoot on top of my Sony a6500, which transmits the signal to a external monitor. In this case, it's a 24-inch Samsung monitor which I had lying around. This allows me to check if I'm in focus or if the framing is right, because this monitor, which is fairly small, doesn't reach far enough to get a good idea of how it looks. With a bigger monitor, you have a better idea of what you are actually shooting. You can also see clearly see what's in frame or not. And well, you can do that with a longer cable, of course, or a extension cable. It's not always the most convenient solution, because you sometimes want to move your monitor out of your frame, or you want to keep the cables neat and tidy. When I don't use it at home, you can also use it on a gimbal, which makes it a multifunctional product. So Hollyland Tech created a great product that allows beginners, amateurs or consumers get into the producing world. It has great functions like loop out or dual transmitting, dual HDMI out, and it's a great product for people who want to start getting into that filmmaking world. For me, as a standalone filmmaker, I don't really work with a team. Most of the time I run and gun for companies, for weddings and that kind of stuff. This is a great setup for me to give my gimbal, to retain the gimbal's freedom of movement. This setup is light enough to not add too much weight onto the gimbal, so it won't make me too tired. And Hollyland Tech has done a great job here. So I want to thank Hollyland Tech for sending the product to me. While this is a free product that I can review, this post hasn't been sponsored by any means. Generally, I'm really happy with the product. The only thing that can be better is the amount of attachment that you can use to mount the product onto the gimbals or other monitors. However, with a little bit of creativity, you can get there, because there's enough mounting solutions on top of the transmitter or receiver. I want to thank you for watching. See you next time. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up, and if you really like my channel, please give me a follow. Much appreciated. See you next time.